Life is an amazing podcast, and it is presented and hosted by myself, Caro, and my sweet dog Sparky. Give it up for him. I hope you're ready. Enjoy. Alrighty guys, welcome back to another episode of Go For Your Life. And I am here, Amsterdam to New Jersey, to be with Austin. Hello Austin.
Hello, how are you?
It's so nice to be with you. I have been in your beautiful studio, so I can kind of, imagine that we're there again, eating your lovely cheese, because I also had your cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Austin and I actually have a few things in common. Cheesemakers.
Yeah.
So cool.
And the Dutch have always been very famous cheesemakers. So.
That's it. We do love our cheese. We do love our cheese, Austin. I was very impressed by yours. So, but we're not going to talk about cheese. I'm so grateful for you taking the time to talk to us today. I was inspired by your episode in another podcast, Yoga is Vegan by Holly Scotus, and just a few things you said were so inspiring. I was like, I have to have him on my podcast as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So just a little introduction, Austin. You have been in theater and costume making for a very long time in your life, right?
I was yes. Before I started teaching yoga, I actually studied to be a costume and set designer. I have a master's in costume and set designer, and I've worked for 35 years in the entertainment industry. And it was everything from Broadway, operas, ballet, cruise ships. I've actually spent a lot of time working for the cruise ship industry and theme park industry. And so I had a really broad spectrum of the kind of stuff I designed. And in a lot of ways that informed me. It's interesting because our paths always seem to take us to where we need to be. I really believe that if it wasn't for those years I spent in entertainment and collaborating with people, because entertainment is total about collaboration, is not about personal creativity. You're working with actors, you're working with directors, you're working with a script, you're working with somebody else's vision. So that has informed me as a yoga teacher.
Yeah, I can really see what you're saying. And what you were saying also, which I thought was really interesting, is that yoga came into your life quite late, right? Did you say you were already in your 40s when you did your first?
I was 2 years old when I took my first yoga class. And I was at a point in my theatrical career that I had grown not really content with it. I kept kind of asking myself, is there any more to this? Because I had raised myself up to kind of within the industry where I was considered like a B-level designer. I wasn't on a list, but I was definitely working constantly and working on big projects. And they just never seemed to be getting better. You know what I mean? Like it was never more support. There was never it was no more unpleasant or pleasant. It was always the same conflicts and difficulties of doing the project. And you kind of think that as you go up the ladder, it's easier.
But that wasn't the case.
And it wasn't the case. And so I was kind of having a life crisis. And I was a really wonderful therapist at the time. And she suggested that I start practicing meditation first. And then she said, well, maybe you should try yoga. And I went to a yoga class, and the first class I went to was a Jivamukti class, which was kind of that kind of thing, like you're always aware you're supposed to be when you're there, because it was a really kind of heavy message. There was a spiritual message to it. And I started to kind of implement these ideas to change my life.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
So yoga is very transformative. But I also believe that for yoga to be a transformation in your life, you have to be ready for that transformation. Right? You can't be in a place where you're like it would not have worked the same for me if I would have done it when I was 32.
Yeah, exactly. You were in the right time in your life to start this journey of yoga.
I was ready to let go of the old and experience something new, and I was willing to let go of an old identity and find a new identity.
Yeah, because it's really beautiful that it also, what you're saying is nearly like the sequencing in your life. Like you were, and then it grabbed you and off you went.
And then, and it's that kind of change that yoga can bring. When that kind of change happens, there's no resentment to loss. Mm-hmm. You know, you really are capable of having that past experience and fulfilling desire to its completion, and then let go of it, detach from it, and have that as a learning experience, and that's really the teachings of yoga.
Yeah, exactly.
Things that people miss out on, that they don't really understand that if you're clinging or grasping onto old identifications, old desires, then yoga can't really happen.
No, exactly.
And it's not the right time for yoga to happen in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's and then because we both, you did it a year before me in 2012. You did your teacher training. I did mine in 2013, but in the same place. So we both walked the path of our teachers in Omega, which is really nice. And then not long after that, you opened your own studio, right, in New Jersey.
So the journey for that kind of moving on, like, so because I was older and because of all those years in the theater, I got out of the teacher training. I went to teacher training thinking I was only going to go advance my personal practice. I never thought I was going to teach. Never had. So I thought, well, I'll sub a class here or there so I can get free yoga. Like I was like, that kind of thing. It was like really, like so many people do that. And so I was here. I was at home for a week, and my first teacher, Susan Steiner, called me, and she said, "They're expecting you to go over to the yoga class at 12 o'clock and teach the class." And I said, "I'm not teaching a class." And she said, No, you're subbing for me. I'm sick. I can't go. And it was total setup. Yeah. Like, she wasn't sick. And I said, I can't do this. And she says, you have to. They're expecting you. And she hung the phone up.
Yeah, there you go, Austin.
And, so I went and I taught the class. They put me on the sub week, but within 3 weeks, some teacher had quit. And they said, we have 3 class slots open. Do you want them? And so I took those 3 classes. So I taught for a year. And I was teaching at a couple of local studios. They were both hot yoga studios. And I was teaching at a gym. Actually, I was teaching at 2 gyms, different companies. And so I actually had like this kind of like a whole week of classes. I was teaching almost, every day. I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I really need to kind of polish my teaching skills. But it was the theater that allowed me just to walk in and stand in front of a group of people.
Yeah, exactly right. I like you have a theater background as well, so that really helps. I think when you,
because I
totally.
Stage fright, stage fright. I was nervous, like, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? But it wasn't like I can't. I had not lost my nerve. I had, that I was fearless in terms of that.
Yeah.
So I went. I did my teacher training with Gayatri Sandy, the apprenticeship program with Jiva Mukti, and I did that in New York City at the center. And I taught there for a year also after that apprenticeship program, and then so it was 3 years into it. I kind of thought I was sick of getting on the train and going to New York City. I mean, I was like, I could open up a little space here and, teach yoga locally and get out of my bed and go teach. Get on the train. So we were looking for a small space. Sharon Gann, founder of Jivamukti, she caught wind that we were looking for a space, and she walked up to me. She went, "Oh, Austin, I hear you're going to open up a yoga studio in New Jersey." And I said, "Yeah." And I showed her the logo that my partner Bob had created, and she's like, "Oh, lovely. I think it should be Jivamukti."
Yeah. Lovely logo, but make it Jivamukti.
And so we spoke about it, my partner and I, Bob, and Bob immediately had a negative reaction. He was like, "No, we can't do that." And then he slept on it and he said, "Well, maybe it should be." And so for 7 years we were a Jivamukti center.
Yeah.
And people, even I think people even in the Jivamukti community don't realize that from the New York center to my center in the direction that the crow flies is only 2 miles.
Yeah. But I think people from New York always like, but that's like over the bridge. Like, oh my God, that's like, it's right. Like, dude, it's right there. But always when I was traveling, for me, I was like in New York, and then I came to your studio, easy, but
Europeans, they get traveling. Americans,
yeah.
But I guess the thing is like the point of that saying is like, out of all the centers that have Jivamukti centers that have ever been, some of them are in Charleston, some of them have been in Detroit or Canada or Europe. We were close. Mm-hmm. We were like, we were actually more part of the New York center than any of the other centers.
Yeah, you were close to the base, like to the home base.
Close to the base, and so it was very like my teachers were their teachers. The things were being done in New York City was the way the things that we were doing. We weren't really having a kind of any kind of interpretation or ownership interpretation of the method or the idea how the studio should be run. It was very much a mirrored image of New York City.
Yeah.
Which probably became a problem because it got to the point where I did it better than New York City. So there was resentment that was built up within the organization toward us because we were doing it better.
Yeah. What are they doing? What are they doing that we're not doing?
Bill Jersey was doing a better job. When New York City cut all its basics, we still had basics classes. When they cut their satsang, we still had a satsang. When teachers kind of started to teach slightly different variations that felt like Iyengar classes.
And in what way what were you doing different, Austin? What was better at what you were doing?
I was kind. And that is the truth.
Yeah.
I was kind to people. I was kind to the employees, my employees. And when there was a problem, I was able to sit down and say, there were a couple of times, like I walked in and I said, "I know you're doing this in New York, but I don't feel like it's the method, and I don't want you teaching that here. Mm-hmm. You can teach it over there, but please don't teach that here." Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was kind, but I was a hard ass about things like, please begin your class and end your class on time.
Yeah.
Don't go over 20 and 30 minutes because they're doing that in New York. Mm-hmm. Keep that in New York. If that's the way.
No, it's stealing. It's stealing people's time.
And so the reason why I did it better was because I treated people with integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of that kindness, you feel you were also doing better financially then. You were.
Well, I think finances are funny, right? I mean, first, right before we left, last time I think we were together too. We were at the Jivamukti immersion in Omega.
Yeah.
And this was before we had made this decision. This was now a year ago.
Yeah, last September. Yeah.
Now, when they sold it, I will say that